I'm just going to record this. So first of all, just a huge welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Just a very quick note who I am. So I am Colette, obviously I'm the one on the left, and I run Contextful. We are a marketing and fundraising operations strategy consultancy. We help teams work better together, get systems, platforms and processes in place, and trying to drive more income into organizations. So just the first little bit of housekeeping that we've got going on today is I am recording the session, so you don't have to have any cameras on or anything. You don't have to participate if you don't want to. Everybody was muted as they came in, but feel free to use the chat box if you've got any questions at all. There is going to be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end, but if you didn't want to ask them and you had questions afterwards, feel free to send me a message. And just respect everybody on the call. There might be conversations afterwards. This is an inclusive space and everybody has different levels of understanding. So what is the goal of our session today? The first is identifying the changes that the ICO are bringing in for fundraisers in the UK, understanding what the soft opt-in rule each and how it can be used, and how to optimize processes to maximize any fundraising opportunities that can be presented to itself. So the Information Commissioner Office is consulting on a major update, and this is for all charities and not-for-profits in the UK. And it's a new charitable purpose soft opt-in. It's going to be able to enable charities to connect with supporters by email or by text in ways that previously were really restricted. So previously, fundraisers were not able to use legitimate interest as a basis to send fundraising using without specific prior consent. And this is designed to change all of that. So now registered charities can send fundraising or campaign emails and texts without needing explicit prior consent for each communication. This means that people don't have to necessarily have ticked the marketing opt-in. But as with everything, there are some caveats around where you can and you cannot use this new soft-in rule. So what we're just going to do is we're just going to have a look at some of those. But first of all, it's all about furthering your charitable purpose. And they've got very clear boundaries about what a charitable purpose really is. The first is all around requesting donations. This is including financial contributions that you are asking for, but also donations of clothes, food, or other items, depending on what type of charitable organisation you are. The second is around being able to send call outs for volunteers, whether that is for particular events, whether that's for actually within your organisation. You're able to put that call out without hard opt-ins. And the third is all about providing information about what your charity does, the activities you do, and any services that you provide. But again, as I said before, there are caveats to that. So let me just go through those for you. So these are the 6 main caveats that this comes into play with. So every single communication that goes out to any of these people has to have the ability to opt out. And that's not just on the first one, that is on every single communication that goes out via text or via email. They have to really easily be able to do it within one click. Contacts must be gathered directly by yourself and not any third parties. So, for example, if you were working with me and I was gathering contacts for you guys, I'm not allowed to pass that over. This has to be a direct thing. Even if somebody is doing it on your behalf, it has to be directly gathered by your charitable organisation. Possibly the biggest caveat that they have is if you've got an incredible database of people signed up, for example, to newsletters with your charity and on your website, up until that point in January, anything that's gone before that, you are not allowed to use a soft opt-in for that. It has to be with new people only. And you're not allowed to get in touch with anybody and use that soft opt-in rule that pre-exists within any of your databases. Interactions on social media do not count for soft opt-in. I don't know whether that's an obvious thing to include or not. However, likes, comments, shares, and even DMs that come through from your social media, that is not classed as something that you can use as a soft opt-in. If somehow you may able to get their email address, you're not allowed to communicate with them unless they've specifically given it to you, which goes to that fifth point there. They have to physically have given you their email or their mobile number for you to text. They have to have supplied that in some format. And it cannot be used to promote any commercial services. So what we mean by that is that could be if you've got an online shop or you have some sort of report that you are selling or anything like that, you are not allowed to include those on any of these soft opt-in emails. Even if it is just a line at the bottom of an email, you're not allowed to include that in. There are two really, really big things that you cannot do is if receiving any sort of direct marketing is going to prevent anybody from seeking help, you are not allowed to contact them. For example, if they have been on your website and you run a mental health charity and they are asking questions about where can I get support or is there a counsellor in my area, and they supply details for you to be able to converse with them about that, they are not allowed to be part of your soft opt-in program. They are classed as people who are seeking support and seeking help, and you are not allowed to use that for them. Also, you are not allowed to use any contact details gathered in soft opt-in rules for direct mail. This is only for email and text, and that is because it is so that people can directly, very quickly and easily do a click opt-out with just one click of a button. So we've talked a little bit about what the caveats are. So actually, what can really be used for this soft opt-in rule? So you can email or text people if they have signed up to a website newsletter. If they're inquiring about anything on your website in terms of kind of, oh yeah, I'd like some general information or any services you provide, you can use that too. If they have engaged in an advocacy campaign, for example, if you have an advocacy platform that is asking people to get in touch with your local MP to say it's about fireworks with your dog, we want campaign our local MP to be able to say we don't want fireworks in the area. If they have supplied their contact details and it's an advocacy platform that is on your website that you own, that you have that data, you are allowed to engage with them in a soft opt-in campaign. If they've made any inquiries in general into your charity, it might be any sort of inquiry that is just general and generic. What time are your openings and things like that? You can absolutely use those twos. Or if they've required any information on any events, or if they've asked about any volunteering opportunities and have not gone forward and used them, or if they have actually attended or inquired about any events, they are all okay. They've shown an active interest in your charity. Therefore, these rules now mean that they are okay to receive fundraising only emails, which is great news. So that's a little quick whistle-stop tour of what these soft opt-in rules actually are. But the most important thing now is how do you actually put those soft opt-ins in place? What do you have to do in the background to make sure that you're set up in the right way to be able to put this into place? So the first is configuring your CRM. Really, really important. But how do you actually go about doing that? Now, I had started pulling some slides together in terms of the look and feel of different CRMs, but everybody has their own different ones. So I'm just going to supply you with a list. And if you have any questions about how this applies to specific CRMs, feel free to reach out to me afterwards. But the first is, what you need to do is you need to tag the contacts who qualify for soft opt-ins separately from those with explicit consent saying yes, they are open to marketing and fundraising information, and note the qualifying reasons. This is really important that this is logged into your CRM, and so it's also then kept separate. Oh, hang on. So this is why ensuring your opt-out options are clearly recorded. If you are ever to be audited, which with these new rules coming in, there is a higher percentage rate of possibility of having an audit done, make sure those options are clearly recorded within your CRM against individuals. When I said before that one of the caveats is you cannot use a soft opt-in to anybody from a previous database, this is really important to create separate segments. These has to be kept separately from what you currently have. Anybody new coming in from January, you are able to do this. This is why having a separate segment or list in your CRM really will help you distinguish those people who have actively given you consent versus this soft opt-in. So they have to be tagged, they have to be recorded, what you're sending them has to be recorded, and they have to be kept separate from all of your other contacts. Then what you need to do is you need to set up some new workflows. So this could be anything from automation to make sure that, direct fundraising messaging is only going out and you're not adding anything into any sort of corporate language or corporate selling. Those workflows need to be added and put in. They need to be separate from any other workflows, automations that you have in place. And you need clear documentation and logs of consent and your marketing history. This is really important, again, for those audits that might come in. You need to be able to very clearly pick up and say, this is what I've been doing. This is how I've done it. These people have given consent and these people haven't. And you need to be able to demonstrate that for any sort of ongoing audits. The second thing you really need to do is reviewing your emails. Now, there's 4 really clear areas to review the actual format of the emails that need to go out. The first is all around your messaging. This has to primarily and only be about fundraising. We talked a bit about that charitable purpose. It has to only be about that. So you need to make sure your messaging is right. And it leads on to your second point there, which is all around testing. You need to make sure you put a lot of A/B testing in place. These people are going to be much colder, although that they have made an inquiry, they are interested, they know your charity. They're going to be colder, they're going to be less likely to be able to, donate money or donate their time or anything else that you're trying to seek for them. So you need to really be testing not only the layout, the messaging, the position of your find out more or donate now or any of this sort of stuff. But I would also, at the bottom of every single email, not only having an opt-out, unsubscribe, however you want to phrase it, just has to be really clear and obvious. But also, I would also include, would you like to learn more about marketing? Would you like to learn more about all of our other services? And test how that goes down as well. You need to get the option to try and always build on your hard opt-ins too. Configuring that opt-out, so as soon as somebody press unsubscribe, it connects to your CRM and it connects to a process, which means, yes, within one click, they have unsubscribed. You don't want that to be broken in any way. So make sure before anything goes out, before any automation puts in place, you have tested that absolutely to its nth degree. It needs to make sure that it works, because otherwise you could have a complaint go to the ICO. And the fourth thing is all around tracking and reporting. We talked about how these people need to have their communications added into next to their records in the CRM, but also tracking if you get any donations out of it, the open rates, the click-through rates, all of that. It's a bit bread and butter for all of these sort of campaigns, but specifically for this soft opt-in, you need to be able to really demonstrate how valuable, even if they've given a little bit of kind of interest in how much you might have to nurture, but how valuable it might be. You might have 3 or 4 emails that go out and then somebody donates, or you might have 6 emails that go out and somebody then kind of makes a volunteer inquiry or signs up to that. It's going to be different regardless of which charity you are and kind of what you're asking for. So make sure you can track it and make sure you can report on it, so you know how much energy to put into the soft opt-ins and how much money you're making or how many donations you're actually getting. The third is updating your privacy policy. Now, as a caveat, I am not a legal professional, so I would always say that every single person needs to be looking at their own privacy policies. If somebody's in-house, or get a legal expert in. But roughly speaking, this is what has been suggested on the ICO website, which is pretty strong information. But it's all around, you have to be really transparent in your privacy policy about what you're using the data for, how you're using it, how you're storing it, how you're keeping it, and how you're going to process it. It has to all be added into your privacy policy, and there has to be a link to this on every email that you send out. So the next thing is mapping the supporter journey. What this does then is this blurs the line between marketing, between fundraising, between advocacy, between campaigns. It blurs the line about who owns that supporter throughout the whole life cycle, because fundamentally you are now potentially able to communicate with people who have just signed up to a newsletter, but then you're trying to nurture them and move them forward to convert in some way in terms of financial or donate or some other sort of donation. So understanding how your teams are working together, how the supporter is moving through, how often you're communicating with them, how the type of information that you're sending over to them, if they have any questions or if they make any inquiries, what team does that fall to answer that? And always think of that customer journey as a cycle as opposed to a funnel. Once they've converted, you can then have to look at retaining them, and they have advocacy. They might be looking at other things where they qualify for other soft opt-ins. So looking at that supporter journey is going to be really important to maximizing that income that you're going to get from anybody who has any interest in soft opt-ins. And the fifth one is really important about training the team. So some items that you need to really think about if you're going to put this in place: updating any scripts that you have, anybody who might be communicating out with any of your supporters or donors, get those scripts updated and put up-to-date FAQs on your website. One of the really important things is you have to be really transparent about what you're doing, hence the privacy policy, hence, communicating out to everybody and having, able to unsubscribe. Having updated FAQs on your website is going to be really, really important. Review and amend any complaints policies. If you have a customer service team, or if there's one particular person in your fundraising team who deals specifically with any complaints or any kind of inquiries that come in, they really, really need to know what policies and where you stand on it. And also then how potentially going to this one, being able to provide further details. The fundraising regulations, they have a place where you can escalate if anybody has any complaints. They would also be able to check to make sure that you're being compliant. So just knowing how you can escalate some of those complaints is going to be important too. Telling the wider organization and keep details somewhere central is going to be key so that everybody can understand what you're doing. You might need more resources, you might need more time, you might be spending a bit more money to be able to hopefully get some more money down the line from the soft-in activity that you're doing. Putting it as a wider organization point is going to be key to bringing people along on that journey. Otherwise, people might not understand and people might not think that you're doing anything right, but you are. You've just got to tell them, and keep some documentation central. Anybody who is dealing with any contacts that are using soft opt-in, they need to know systems fail sometimes, okay? That opt-in button, when you click it on an email or if you click it on your phone, it might not work. They might get in touch with you and say, why am I having this email? You have to have somebody at the end who will need to know how to manually opt that person out, potentially archive it, and potentially remove contacts. There might be a process you already have in place in your organization that complies with GDPR, and there's a process about how you remove them and how you store them. So understanding GDPR and do more GDPR training means that you'll be able to kind of make sure that that person is not communicated with on multiple bases. That's really, really important. So soft opt-ins create an incredible opportunity for charities in the UK. There's a whole wealth of people who have made some sort of inquiry or interest into what you have and what your charity is all about. But it's all going to be about how you actually harness the power of those potentials and how you actually put it in place. The caveats really to be mindful of is that you cannot use anybody that's already in your database. You cannot send any emails out or text out to anybody that might not seek help if they're receiving direct marketing. And there needs to be investment in the configuration of things like your CRM, your processes, the way that you work, especially if you've got different teams who are potentially creating some of these sort of campaigns, monitoring them, putting them out, and who are cross-using different supporters at different times. So that's really, really important too. So I've really whizzed through things really, really quickly there, I will send these slides out, and I've got some links to some different articles, things which I will share in that as well and send it out to you. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask now or put them in the chat box. Or if not, you are more than welcome to connect with me. This is my LinkedIn details are here. You can find me there. You could email me, or you could send me a message on our business phone if you wanted to. So I am going to throw this open to anybody and ask if you have any questions. Hi, Sheree. Yes, it's really mostly for B2C. Yeah, so it's actually if you've got individual, because it's all about individual consent as opposed to B2B. B2B still has very different rules and still very much works in terms of the same way that commercial does. But this is now specifically for fundraising to be able to raise additional funds and different opportunities with individual people.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Any other questions? No? Cool. Thank you so much for joining. Really, really appreciate. What I will do is I will make sure I send you the deck and send you the recording out. And I hope you have a really lovely rest of your day, and I haven't taken up too much of your lunch break. Thanks very much, everybody.